Hello and welcome to Bangladesh Today. The terrible clothing factory collapse, which killed more than 1,100 people in Savar near Dhaka on April 24th, shocked the world. The country struggles with pressing concerns like corporate responsibility and overhauling standard operating procedures regarding safety issues. Should foreign buyers jointly fix a minimum international wage for the industry? Will finally workers get the consideration they deserve? To talk more about it, we have with us Dr. Prabhu Mohapatra, who's an associate professor at the University of Delhi and specializes in labor studies, migration and identity formation. Mr. Mohapatra, thank you for speaking with us. I wanted to talk to you about the factory collapse in Dhaka. Now, this has brought into sharp focus the poor safety conditions in the factories in Dhaka. You know, despite several accidents, successive governments have not done anything to improve the condition of the workers there. Now, is this something which is like governments don't care because the profits are coming in and they couldn't be bothered? Is life so cheap? Or is it that they really cannot do much about it? How has Bangladesh been different as compared to, say, India and Pakistan, which also exports garments to Europe and to America?
Well, overall, let's say, it's not that the government cannot do, government can do. One of the interesting features about which is shared by India, Bangladesh and Pakistan is actually a shared legal regulatory structure. Actually, the origin of regulating labor is a colonial during the British period, and we are all in one, and the legacy of that remains. Many of the so-called restrictive labor laws, or what you call stringent labor laws, actually exist also in Bangladesh. If you look at the Bangladesh 2006, in fact, it is a little more advanced than India, because in India, labor law is, there are 47 different laws, central laws, and another 300 some local laws, because labor is a concurrent part of earth. But in Bangladesh from 2006 onward, they have a common labor code, something they have put together all the labor laws together. That's supposedly better. But both Bangladesh, Bangladesh, Pakistan and India, even with a strong, relatively strong protective labor law, what we have is a well-known fact of lax implementation.
Compliance is the problem.
Compliance is not a problem. It's a structurally inbuilt into this so-called strict labor law. But I am a historian of labor law, so I know how these labor laws came into being, how were they created, what their main function was. It had combined the protection of labor with a very strong regulation of labor also. So what means that it can, and it shaped the labor movement in India, Pakistan and Bangladesh also in a way, very strong state presence, for instance. And when the state itself starts withdrawing from, when it's not a matter of what do you call it? It's not a matter of bothering or caring. It's a well-known strategy of in a globally competitive world, how much they will allow, what kind of laxity will be allowed.
And they have allowed laxity, isn't it? It's only now that this 2006 Labour Act was amended, and they're allowed to form unions without taking permission of the manufacturer or of their whoever's running the factory. Now labour unions are allowed to function. Is that a positive that you see that
See, actually labor unions even earlier there was no such thing. There was no provision of a permission. See, the question is not a permission to form a union. Question is recognition. That means there is no law, there was no law, and India doesn't still have a law.
No, I'm talking about Bangladesh.
Even India doesn't still have a law, even though, which forces the employer to recognize the union.
What is the difference?
Difference is that you can form a union.
Okay.
Anyone can form a union.
So if you don't recognize, then whatever demand you make is pointless.
That's not. If not just pointless, you are not a bargainable agent.
That's right. Okay.
So most struggles in India, history of India, and that isn't from colonial period, has been for struggle to get recognition.
It's the same with Bangladesh and with Pakistan.
In a way.
All of South Asia, you're saying?
Yes, all of South Asia. That's the history. What it means is that unionization unions can be formed, but there's no necessity for the employer to bargain with you.
Correct, because the garment manufacturer, the garment workers whom we spoke to, now they said that even if we do form unions, what happens is that they face harassment, they're fired from their jobs, there's no protection for their jobs, without any kind of compensation, they're fired, and there is no recourse. They cannot go to anybody to say that, hey, we formed a union and we've been fired, so what happens now? And there are no jobs, you see, where do they go from here?
Yeah.
So what is the solution to this right now? Who will support them? Is it the state?
Well, I think to put too much faith in the state is not, and as it happened, it was not through the state action. Anything that is happening is strangely happening through an international labor standards compliance structure, which has just been happening. There are problems with it, but the national government, why isn't the national government interested in, as you said, asked me, why are the national governments not bothered about it? It's not that they're not bothered, they are bothered in a different manner. They are bothered to the extent that they're saying that, okay, it is possible that we allow for a degree of laxity in order to make Bangladesh a attractive investment destination.
Right.
So in a sense, by saying, okay, we have all these laws, but we'll allow this laxity in order for us to be competitive. Because the argument being that, see, Bangladesh can be lifted out of poverty only with this type of mass industrialization.
Correct. Millions of dollars are coming in, which it had never done before.
Yeah, it's now 8% of the GDP of Bangladesh is coming from garment export. It's a huge number.
Yeah.
Nothing comes closer to in a single product, single industry that way. It's a huge, it's not just the export, in terms of total production, it's perhaps a very large proportion, which is not the case of neither Pakistan nor India, even as a proportion.
No, here, the problem also is that the state says that it's difficult. The problem now is that these factories are located in these congested areas in the middle of the city. Bangladesh has not invested in making these industrial zones, like we have in Delhi, say the Okla industrial zone. So you have the garment manufacturers sitting out there, the factories are there, electricity is given, there is water facility. Now all this is there. Yes, there are cases where rules are flouted here too, but what happens is that they have not created these industrial zones, and the factories are situated right in the middle of the city in congested areas, and then the fires and the accidents take place. What is the solution? Should the Sheikh Hasina government move these factories out of Dhaka into a modern structure, and can they get investment from Western manufacturers to do this?
Well, that's one of the solutions what should be done, but I agree that it is possible to create safer working conditions, if only the government and if only the manufacturers themselves see safety not as a cost but safety as a prime condition. No one will ask a person to start a business if he doesn't have capital. 500 rupiah, if you don't have 500 rupiah, you can't start a business. You have a minimum. Why can't the safety condition be such a minimum that you cannot start a business unless you have electricity condition, isn't it? Why can't labor standards be also a minimum? The point
and the answer would be?
Answer is that why do they? Because they see it as a cost. An extra cost, while actually it is a foundational, it should be the minimum on which you can start a business.
So these manufacturers are being painted as these devils who are just concerned about profit motives. There's the white man sitting in Europe, sitting in America, who's only seeing profit as the motive. In fact, this is something that even users of these goods in America and in Europe are turning around and telling the manufacturers, we will not buy goods from these shops like in Gap and Wal-mart. They faced this problem when the consumers turned around and said, we will not buy from you if you are sourcing your goods from countries which have poor labor conditions. Now the sad part is that if they do that, they don't buy goods saying if it's got a made in Bangladesh tag, oh, we won't buy it from, say, Gap or Wal-mart or Sears or Target. We won't buy it from you guys because you're producing it in Bangladesh. The net effect is that it harms that worker. You know,
Yes,
not
true.
the 1,000 who died, but their families who are still, dependent on that. So it's a vicious circle.
Right. It's a vicious circle from both sides. From the, if you look at it from the manufacturer's side, they would say, well, look, you know, how can we do this? Our profit margins are so low. We have to, in order to even start the business, even to run the business, we need a minimum profit. It's not that they are extraordinarily profit oriented. All industries are profit. Without profit, nothing, no industry can run. That itself is not the cause. The point is, how is the profit being, how is it being looked at? Where is it being looked at? The global transformation in the production system, which happened from the roughly from the middle of 1980s or roughly around for the last 3-4 decades. What did it allow? It allowed for for people to move from different conditions, to source from different areas and find the cheapest mode. That created the consumer revolution and so on and so
Then
forth.
the sweatshops and
No, well, I'm not even talking about sweatshops. Let's say the idea that you can always go to a cheaper place, and those cheaper, how is it cheaper? Both, there is always a condition that if it is cheap, it can be bad quality. How to maintain quality plus? That's this was the way in which employers looked at it, and they moved around. But one condition of their quality never mentioned or never was about labor condition. You see, the big thing which has happened throughout the world, and this has happened to India and to Bangladesh and elsewhere. Bangladesh specifically, India has this in a much more wider scale, not only in particular industry, but in even the most advanced mechanized form. What is that? The thing is that bulk of our workers in earlier what was considered as organized, as secure permanent jobs have shifted or have been shifted to what you call temporary contractual job. Now 2/3 of our jobs in India inside the organized sector, organized in, you know, it's a steel factory.
So they miss out on all the benefits and things which it.
And this has not happened because, you know, only the global manufacturers are coming. Even our government organizations are doing it inside the public sector
to remain
units.
competitive in the market, that's what they say.
The argument is
right.
that.
Now, you know, if I was to talk about this ILO agreement, which Western manufacturers now, they have signed this agreement, and the American manufacturers, they're coming up with their own agreement whereby they will conduct checks and repair work, security conditions, check the safety conditions in the factories. It will be their responsibility to do this. What happens then is that the product becomes more expensive because you know, to make these things happen, they will obviously have to appoint people in Dhaka. They'll have to do random checks. They're not going to just depend upon Bangladeshi government inspectors to come and check. Now, how does that happen in India? Do Indian manufacturers, exporters, do they maintain these safety standards? How do we do it in India?
Well, you see, the safety, the question of safety and all are all around primarily the job of the government to monitor and all. That's the primary. But we have also similar informal, sometimes formal arrangements between buyers and sellers.
Where they randomly come and check.
There are not random, they have set up, even there are outsourced it to organizations which do special audits like that. It has, in fact, there is an industry of auditing which is going on, which will allow the manufacturers to say, yes, we have done some auditing.
So if it's
just like a ISO. No,
that's what is the fear, right?
Well, fear or not, well, this is how they are doing it. Let's say that's possible. But unlike this, where there's specific justiciable thing, that's not justiciable. If they don't do it in India, if a social audit or whatever, the safety audit has not been done or has been done and it's wrong, no one can say anything about it. You can't just go out. Here, in this case, in Bangladesh, this recent agreement, it is a justiciable thing. That means you can say that this safety monitoring has not been done, and there are certain. But you see that
so this can go into international labor court.
Yes, not there is no international labor court. There is international courts. So which it can have that. But we have not yet seen anything on labor issues being put into courts, but it is got this justiciable aspect because it's also ILO monitored. ILO generally doesn't go into industrial what do you call disputes. Its functioning is not like that. It's based on an idea of tripartite agreement. Here in this case, it's an agreement between underscored by ILO, underwritten by the ILO, but of the largest, one of the biggest union organization, industrial, and the manufacturers.
See, the problem occurs is that suppose one laborer dies. Now, can the family then sue this multinational? And when the family sues the multinational, then what? You can't do it because they're poor. They have to be backed by somebody to do it. Then the question of malpractice comes, where a competitor could be, joining hands with that laborer's family who's died, and then sue the competitor. And then this is what happens, you see. And as a result of that, everything falls through then.
What exactly has been the agreement which has happened, which is perhaps it is unique. It has not happened in any other, excepting I think one agreement which has been done in Dominican Republic for garments which are specially designed, which provides the workers with not with minimum wage but living wage.
Okay.
And living wage is a different. So with living wage, and they are specially shopped. They are given.
So there's a special fund which these companies have created, which is going to look into this aspect of safety conditions.
Safety
of the workers.
Safety and monitor the working conditions of work. But it also means that they can now charge an extra premium to sell this particular brand of where they have certified this.
Okay.
This is called I Am Bangladesh. They will put a brand called I Am Bangladesh. Same Gap might have two types of things.
So this will restore confidence in made in Bangladesh products, you feel? Because it's suffered a lot. The made in Bangladesh tag has suffered as a result of this fire which happened in Savar. So do you think that this, with this new tag that they plan to put on products which are safe products, will it improve the image that a made in Bangladesh product has?
It will. I hope it will. But the second, but more important is they're going to charge more for it. It's a premium which is being charged. They will charge us slightly more. So there will be two lines of product. The same company might have two lines of product.
But then that's not going to improve the condition of the workers. I mean, how will it, if they are only going to be producing premium products?
No.
Or they're going to produce both?
Yeah, they might, premium product means they might charge a little higher for this special line that, we have gone through all the safety. And it's a way in which a part of the cost is shifted onto the consumer.
Thank you very much for speaking with us, Mr. Mahapatra.
Okay, thank you.
Hello and welcome to Bangladesh Today. The terrible clothing factory collapse, which killed more than 1,100 people in Savar near Dhaka on April 24th, shocked the world. The country struggles with pressing concerns like corporate responsibility and overhauling standard operating procedures regarding safety issues. Workers there. Now, is this something which is like governments don't care because the profits are coming in and they couldn't be bothered? Is life so cheap? Or is it that they really cannot do much about it? How has Bangladesh been different as compared to, say, India and Pakistan, which also exports garments to Europe and to America? Should foreign buyers jointly fix a minimum international wage for the industry? Will finally workers get the consideration they deserve? To talk more about it, we have with us Dr. Prabhu Mohapatra, who's an associate professor at the University of Delhi and specializes in labor studies, migration and identity formation. Mr. Mohapatra, thank you for speaking with us. I wanted to talk to you about the factory collapse in Dhaka. Now, this has brought into sharp focus the poor safety conditions in the factories in Dhaka. You know, despite several accidents, successive governments have not done anything to improve the condition of the